The medieval castle, a symbol of power in the feudal world. This is where the king or local lord would live, and thus defenses became a top priority. If the castle fell, power in the region would be taken over by the enemy. In this video, I want to go through many of the ingenious and some secret features of these fortresses that kept the king safe and invading armies at bay. This is Secrets of the Ancients. Castle Defenses Explained. Europe in the Middle Ages. It was a time known for brave knights, the spread of Christianity, and exploitation of the peasants.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed, bloody peasant!
And what better way to exploit your peasants than to have a big fortress on top of a hill to look down on them from? Enter the medieval castle. These fortresses were originally built of earth and wood, but later switched to stone as technology improved. The first line of defense against an opposing army would be the towers that gave soldiers a clear view of the surrounding countryside for miles around. The tops of these towers would have crenelations, which consisted of these merlons that stuck out with gaps in between that soldiers could look through and shoot arrows from. Towers also made it possible to fire arrows from either side of an enemy as they approached the castle wall. For this purpose, there would also be arrow slits, which provided even more safety for archers as they fired than the crenelations did. These towers were originally all square, but their corners served as weak points when the enemy attacked with catapults or trebuchets. So they later switched to round towers, which, since they had no corners, were also harder to sabotage with the technique of undermining or digging under the foundation until it falls over. And yeah, if you're wondering about the origin of the word undermine in a figurative sense, yes, this is where that comes from. But let's say that you've got near the castle despite the arrows raining down on you. Well, the next line of defense that you would come across is a physical barrier. Either the castle is built on top of cliffs, which will make it hard to climb up to the wall, which you would then have to scale, or there is a moat. These moats were actually only a few feet deep, so you could often walk through them, but they would normally be filled with a load of spikes, and the fact that the water came right up to the castle walls meant that it was impossible to undermine them. You wouldn't be able to dig on the bed of the moat, it would just fill up with water. So these two issues made scaling the walls hard. If enemies did manage to climb the walls with ladders, hot oil could be thrown down on top of them. And for this purpose, castles started being built with something known as machicolations, these holes that face directly downwards, allowing soldiers to throw oil or even stones directly down onto enemies below. Stones are a lot cheaper than arrows and maybe just as effective in this type of situation. Machicolations could be built above weak points, so if anyone tried to get through this window with a ladder, you could throw stones down on them. Or if they tried to get through this door, look, there is a machicolation right above. Or this door, or this window. Look, these ones have even been used as well. You can see the stains. So it is hard to get over the wall, but even if you did, some castles would have what is called a curtain wall around them, which isn't even considered the main wall of the castle. It's just an outer defense wall. Like this castle in Wales, where you have to get past a moat, probably filled with spikes and sewage, then there is a curtain wall, and then you get to the actual wall of the castle. So okay, let's say you've abandoned that idea. It's just too hard to climb over the wall. Let's say you instead try to attack the main door. So as you approach the main gate, you'll either have to climb a hill or cross a moat. In the case of a moat, there will most likely be a drawbridge, which the castle occupants are going to raise up to stop you getting inside. I mean, what, you didn't really just think they were gonna let you waltz right in, did you? Then, when you get to the main gate, which typically has a gatehouse built up around the main gate to give it more protection, there will be arrow slits with multiple arrows firing at you, machicolations above the door, and there may be a portcullis, which is a wooden mesh that can be brought down to block the door.
That's it, the portcullis!
Now, it might be closed, in which case you will need to destroy it. Or perhaps they leave the portcullis open, so you have to just break down the door with a battering ram. But supposing the portcullis is left open, you then break down the door and you enter. You discover that there is another portcullis in front of you, which suddenly drops. You turn to look back, only to see that the portcullis on the main door behind you is dropping down too, trapping you and a few dozen men inside a small space between them. You then look up and you see these holes, known as murder holes. And congratulations, because you have now walked into a portcullis trap.
It's a trap!
You are stuck, and the inhabitants of the castle start throwing rocks, boiling water, heated sand, and maybe even hot oil down on top of you through these murder holes. Once you all die, they can open up the portcullis again and trap another group inside again to get slaughtered. But maybe eventually you destroy the two portcullises and the survivors of your army are in. Once you get inside the curtain wall, you may have another wall to cross, but eventually you will get to the keep. This is the tower in the center of the castle where the king or lord actually lives. This is where he would host banquets with his family or nobles, or invite potential suitors for his daughter to make their case.
The presentation of the suitors! Clan Macintosh!
But the keep was also the last line of defense when the castle walls had been breached. It would be located either right in the middle or on the opposite side of the castle to the gatehouse. The walls of the keep may be up to 20 feet thick, and the door would often be above ground level with a wooden staircase that could be destroyed to make it harder for attackers to get in. There would be a cellar for storing food so the occupants could hunker down in the case of a siege, and there would also be a chapel so that the nobles could make their peace with God as they waited for their possible demise at the hands of an enemy army. For this reason, the keep may also have some secret passageways or chambers that would allow those defending the keep to either move around secretly once attackers got inside or hide themselves to avoid certain death. The back of the castle near the keep would also often have what is called a postern gate, which was a small door, too small for a horse but big enough for a human, and it could serve as an escape route for those fleeing. This one at Bodiam Castle in England opens directly into the moat, so rescuers would have to be ready with a boat to escort the lord and his family away in the dead of night. But postern gates could also open out into a ditch to make it difficult to see those escaping, over sheer cliffs, or in the case of castles that back onto the sea, directly over water, so that the king could make his escape, perhaps with the help of a magical wizard. But forget I mentioned the wizard. That's a topic for another time. Alright guys, that is the video for today. What are your favorite castle defenses? Leave your comments below, and please subscribe to the channel for more videos like this from me and my co-host Victoria every week. We'll see you next time on another episode of Secrets of the Ancients.